All right, what is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to the KC Sports Report. I'm your host, Michael Darcy, as always, and today I have the pleasure to be joined by my friend Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com, and we are going to talk about this Chiefs and Bills upcoming game and also break down the Bengals win over the Titans. So, Josh, right now I'm recording this at 8:10, and the Bengals just pulled off a shocking upset against the number one seed Tennessee Titans in Tennessee when their kicker, Evan McPherson, kicked a game-winning 52-yard field goal, and somehow the Bengals won this game by a final score of 19-16 after Joe Burrow got sacked 9 times. 9 times he got sacked. So, Josh, what are your thoughts on that game, and how you doing today?
Well, first of all, I'm doing great. Now, looking at this Bengals and Titans game that just happened, I actually was leaning Bengals for this game, so I'm not totally surprised by the result.
Me too.
I am surprised, though, just how, let's just be honest, terribly both teams played, really, for the entire game. Turnovers were a big issue on both sides, offensive line, obviously, for Joe Burrow and the Bengals, but somehow they're still able to pull it off. And if you're a Chiefs fan, you should be extremely excited that this was the result, because if you can just get over this Buffalo Bills hurdle and make it to the AFC Championship game, I think this matchup is very favorable for the Chiefs. One, because you're going to be in Arrowhead, since the Bengals are a lower seed than the Chiefs, so you're going to get to have that game at home. Secondly, looking at how the Bengals offensive line let Joe Burrow down today, you let the Chiefs get 9 sacks and the Bengals only put up 19 points, they're not making it out of the AFC Championship game. The Chiefs' defensive line should be licking their chops.
There's absolutely no chance the Bengals have against the Chiefs if the Chiefs can advance because, well, no, they have a chance, but not if Joe Burrow gets sacked 9 times. That's just not a possible outcome if that is to happen. But honestly, we were the only people that really were telling the truth about Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was not going to be this juggernaut running back that he's been in the previous years because he was coming off of a foot surgery. He had like 5 screws and a plate in his foot, and he just looked slow. Like, it was almost kind of sad because someone who's been so good. Go ahead.
Well, let me cut you off real quick, because I can actually speak from experience, because back when I played football, I broke my foot. And I got 3 plates and 9 screws put in my left foot. So I can kind of attest to what Derrick Henry is going through. And when I saw that he had a plate and 5 screws, I'm like, yep, nope, he's not going to be a factor in this game. Because that is just not something that you can come back from casually in 6 months and just rush for 150 yards. And the biggest hurdle that Derrick Henry had is that the team really needed him at this time in the year, and he just didn't have enough time to recover because you lose your leg strength when you're not able to walk on that foot for a long time. You got to get your muscles back up to speed. You're really going to take more than, just a few months to get back to full strength and fully recover. And the timing just was not there for Derrick Henry, and he was rushed back, and you see the results of that today in this game. He just wasn't a huge factor because that's just not an injury you can come back from as quickly as he tried to.
100%, and I think that a lot of people were just too naive to believe that because, Derrick Henry is arguably one of the most dominant running backs we've seen in the past 10 years, and it would be like if Patrick Mahomes broke his thumb. You can't just expect him to come back and throw the football like nothing ever happened. Now, Derrick Henry is going to have a full offseason to recover, but even then, you don't know what that's going to do to his future body and how he's going to recover from that. But, it was really clear that the Titans just rushed him back, even though he wasn't ready. And, with or without Derrick Henry, that doesn't excuse just the terrible decision-making by Ryan Tannehill. And I've been on this train for such a long time. You cannot have a mediocre to subpar quarterback in the playoffs and expect to win. The Titans are the 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 Chiefs. They've got the team. They just don't have the quarterback. Ryan Tannehill is never going to be good enough to get you over the hump, and they had a chance to go down the field to drive and win that game, and he threw an interception, and then the Bengals just had to go 20 yards and then kick the field goal. It was sad to see, and this Titans team definitely had a lot of adversity this year. They had a lot of injuries, but it was a sloppy game. I thought both teams, like you said, they played pretty poorly, but the Bengals found a way to win it, and you got to give them a lot of credit.
Well, and I tweeted right after the game that if I'm Mike Vrabel, well, just watching what happened, I think this is Mike Vrabel's moment where he goes, shit, I really can't win with this guy. Like, you just can't win with Ryan Tannehill. And I would not be shocked if the Titans make a big splash this offseason to try and make an upgrade at quarterback, because Tannehill is just not it. Like you said, they got a really good team. They got the pieces in place. The defense needs a little bit of work as well. But, for the most part, the cornerstones are in place that you need for a championship team. They just don't have the QB, and the Bengals did, and that's why the Bengals are now heading to the AFC Championship game instead of the Titans, who are really the more experienced playoff team as of recently and should have won this game, and they were the 1 seed. They were the 1 seed for a reason, even though me and you called them fraudulent, which we saw today.
Yeah.
But, the Bengals deserve to be there because they've had a hell of a season, but I do also feel like the Bengals are in the midst of this Cinderella story, and it's Burrow's coming out here, and, they got an explosive offense, but the clock is going to strike midnight at some point, and they're going to be brought back down to earth against the, more mature and experienced team in the Kansas City Chiefs or Buffalo Bills. Like we've mentioned, I think either team that comes out of this game is probably going to win the AFC. But if it is the Chiefs, you know what? I'm sorry, I'm not scared of the Bengals. It took everything right for them to go, or it took everything going right for them in that first matchup for them to win that game. This one would be at home, and this Bengals team reminds me of the 2018 Chiefs right before they lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. They're really good. They're good enough to give you a test, but they're just not quite ready.
I agree. And, when we're drawing comparisons, I try to look at each year and try to see similarities. And this Chiefs team, the way that everything played out throughout the season, it's lining up to be exactly like 2019 when they went on to win the Super Bowl. They got the 2 seed. They had the number 1 seed lose. In 2019, it was the Baltimore Ravens, and shockingly, the Tennessee Titans beat them in Baltimore. This year, the Bengals went into Tennessee and beat the Titans, and you're in a spot where if you do beat the Bills tomorrow, since the Bills beat you earlier in this year, it's a direct comparison to when we played the Texans in 2019 when they beat us in like week 5 too. So I think that there's a lot of similarities between these two teams, and obviously, we're going to have to see the Chiefs go out there and do it tomorrow, but the fact that this Chiefs team could host their 4th straight AFC Championship game at home, it's ridiculous. Like the fact that we went from just a poverty franchise in 2012 to hosting potentially 4 straight AFC Championship games in the span of under 10 years, it's ridiculous. It makes no sense, and it just shows how blessed we are as Chiefs fans.
Yeah, and that's what I tried telling everyone earlier this past week about Patrick Mahomes, and it can't be understated the transformation he's had on this organization. I remember seeing a stat from someone on Twitter that the Chiefs had won 9 playoff games, okay, from the span of 1963 to 2017. So in like a 50-year span, the franchise only won 9 playoff games. In just the years that Mahomes has been the starter, the Chiefs are already at 7 playoff wins. I mean, this is unprecedented.
It's not fair.
In the history of the Chiefs.
He's doing things, not just in Chiefs history, in NFL history that we've never seen before. The fact that you hosted 3 straight AFC Championship games at home, that had never been done before. And if you can find a way to beat the Bills, hosting 4 straight AFC Championship games is one of the most prestigious accomplishments you could probably hold, because it is so extremely hard to get in this game, and the Chiefs are making it look easy. But, we can't, overlook the Buffalo Bills because, like we've been saying all week long, the winner of this game is more than likely going to go to the Super Bowl. And the Buffalo Bills, if the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC, the Bills are like the 1A or 1B of the Chiefs. Like, they are very, very good. And I think that, the Chiefs should be favored because they're at home, but Buffalo's going to give them literally everything that they have. So, Josh, we've talked about this game on your channel, and I've talked about it on mine. But, what are your initial thoughts following this Bengals-Titans game on maybe the outlook that you currently have on this Chiefs team?
Well, I kind of said this at the beginning of the video without actually really saying it, but, the Chiefs, I think a lot of the players, if they watch this game, they're thinking, man, if we just get past the Bills, like, we got this thing in the bag. And I know that's getting ahead, and I know people don't, they don't like to talk, in assumptions, making assumptions that you're just going to win a playoff game. But, I mean, if the Chiefs get over this Bills game, they're winning the AFC Championship. You don't make it that far to lose to the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are a hot team. I get it. Joe Burrow's a great quarterback. The Chiefs, that's a game they have to win. That's a game they should win. And if it's a game they don't win, something has to go, like, terribly wrong, kind of like it did in the first matchup. But, yeah, I mean, the Chiefs, they know that this Bills game, like this, you got to clear this hurdle. You've got to do it, and you're right there. You're right there.
And again, like, trying to draw similarities between 2019 and 2022, this is the same Chiefs team practically, and they've gotten better defensively. Offensively, they've had to, overcome some things. But remember what happened in 2019 against the Texans when they got down 24-0 and they came roaring back and they dropped like 50 in that divisional game? At that point, I don't know what your thoughts were, but it was basically, at least in my mind, oh, the Chiefs are not going to lose. They would not allow themselves to lose after that kind of win. And I think that this game tomorrow against the Buffalo Bills could be that instance. Like, if you can beat the Bills after they went into this wild card round against the Patriots and just killed them, if you can beat that team and let's just say you hold them to under 30 and Patrick Mahomes goes insane, I think that's the kind of win that just fuels the team to a very deep playoff run, and I just don't think that they would lose to the Bengals if they could find a way to win tomorrow.
It would be a very underwhelming end of the season if the Chiefs were to fight their way back into, top seeding and win 10 of their last 11 games, beat the Steelers, beat the Bills, and then lose to the Bengals in the AFC Championship. And that's why I don't see it happening. And, there's a lot of these games, kind of like you said, in the Texans game or the Titans game or the 49ers game. And all those games, you could just feel the momentum. Like, you could feel the momentum, and there was just a point in all those games, and I felt this point in the most recent Steelers playoff game. You just knew, oh, they're not losing this game. Like, you once they started their run, you knew it was over. And that could happen against the Bills, too. Like, no result in this game would shock me. The Bills could blow the Chiefs out. It could be a close game where either team wins on a last-second field goal. The Chiefs could blow the Bills out. I think all of those results are entirely possible.
I agree, because the NFL has just been so weird this year, and who would have predicted the Bengals getting as far as they are? So obviously anything is possible. And, last year I remember thinking, okay, this AFC Championship game, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a close game. And the Chiefs came out there and absolutely killed them after getting down 9-0. So I think that anything is possible in this game. And I think that the initial fear of the Buffalo Bills is kind of weared down a little bit, at least for me, because, the Bills coming off of that win, it was just like, oh my gosh, like they scored on 7 straight drives, or they had perfect drives and they put up 47. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like how are we going to slay this dragon? But I think we forget how good this Chiefs team is. And I think that you pointed this out in a separate video. We seem to ignore the fact that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense rattled off like 7 straight touchdown drives.
Yeah, they did literally the exact same thing.
But again, the media is not for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I want to talk about that really quickly because, even before this Bengals upset over the Titans, everyone was picking the Buffalo Bills to come into Kansas City, beat the Chiefs, and then go to the Super Bowl, which is still possible. But I think the disrespect for the Chiefs is just mind-blowing because this is practically the same team that has gone to back-to-back Super Bowls and won one. Like, I don't get where this disrespect is coming from. And I like Josh Allen. I think he's a really good young quarterback. But at the end of the day, he's proven just about as much as Joe Burrow. Like, there is nothing that Joe Burrow hasn't done that Josh Allen has. So this game is going to be interesting. I think that both these quarterbacks are going to play really well. But, the media disrespect has kind of made this game feel more lopsided than it actually is.
And I think it only helps the Chiefs because the Chiefs are a petty team. And
petty in a good way. I would say they're petty in a good way.
Well, I don't think, besides like maybe a select few players, I don't think a lot of them like let it affect their mental or let it affect the way they play. But a lot of them, like, they do see it, they do hear it. And I think it only helps them. But, yeah, they're a petty team, I would say, in a good way. And they see the disrespect. And, I talked about it in the video that we did, and I'm going to talk about it again because it pisses me off, quite honestly. Chris Sims, the Pro Football Talk, said Josh Allen has been better than Patrick Mahomes over the past 2 years. In what way? In what way? And it drives me insane that people have convinced themselves to believe this. Mahomes has the better stats over Josh Allen over the last 2 years in just every single category except for, rushing yards, and which is not a shock because Allen's a rushing quarterback and he carries the ball a lot more. Mahomes also has won a Super Bowl. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's won an AFC Championship game over Josh Allen. Where is this disrespect coming from? I mean, at this point, people are making stuff up. They're making stuff up.
And I think that, honestly, it's just to push ratings because everyone knows that, we're going to have to tune in and see what these guys are going to say. And, I think that, sadly, a lot of people actually believe the Buffalo Bills are just that much of a better team than the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think that could be a major reason why the Chiefs have had so much success over the past 2 years because they've been doubted every step of the way. Maybe not so much last year, but we were having the talks are the Browns going to do it? And even before the AFC Championship game last year, the Buffalo Bills were this new kid on the block, and they were so hot, and that no one could stop that offense, and they got stopped. And going back to 2019, against the Tennessee Titans in the AFC Championship game, after Tennessee and Derrick Henry ran right through the Patriots, ran right through Baltimore, we were hearing, Derrick Henry's going to kill the Kansas City Chiefs on the ground. Derrick Henry's going to do this. Derrick Henry's going to do that. He got held to 69 rushing yards, and the Chiefs won that game and went to the Super Bowl. I think at a certain point, we need to kind of show everybody that when you speak poorly on this team, more than likely they're going to prove you wrong. And I think that, like you said, that's going to be a newfound motivation for this team. Like most teams in the past, they've been doubted at literally every step of the way this year. They were 3-4 at one point. They won 8 straight games. I think, haven't they won 10 out of their last 11?
Yep.
And now they're right here, and they have a chance to host a 4th straight AFC Championship game at Arrowhead Stadium. I don't know where this disrespect's coming from.
Yeah, and as bad as that Bills game was in Week 5, I want to point out the fact that the Chiefs' defense was historically bad. Not even just by Chiefs standards, NFL standards, they were historically bad. And even then, and I was at that game, there was a point in the third quarter where the fans were into it, and there was even a glimmer of hope after the Rashad Fenton interception that was negated by the Clark roughing the passer, which was a bad call. But even then, deep in the third quarter of that game, Chiefs defense historically bad. The Chiefs still had a shot to win that game, even though they had been playing terrible all night. And going back and watching that game and reflecting, the Bills really didn't do anything special on offense in that game. The Chiefs' defense was just so out of place and so bad that they got, like you mentioned earlier, cheap touchdowns. They did not do anything special in that game. Guys were just wide open all night, and the linebackers didn't seem to know how to fill gaps. And that was really the entire story.
Yeah, and honestly, I think this is something that no one's really talking about, but we got to bring it up. Josh Allen's very good. He is a very good football player. But if you think that he is consistent, I don't know what to tell you. He's been so inconsistent this year. I mean, again, he lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars, to the Urban Meyer-led Jacksonville Jaguars, and he cut it close against the Jets, he cut it close against the Falcons, and he didn't play well in those games. So let's not act like Josh Allen is this guaranteed thing, and, historically, when he's been in the playoffs, he hasn't really looked that good when he's facing up against the great teams. He lost to the Texans that one year when Deshaun went crazy in that final minute and spun off of a tackle and then completed a big-time pass. But, last year, he couldn't do anything against us. So I just think that this Josh Allen love, all right, it's cool, but we need to see him beat the big rival, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. And once he does that, okay, we'll see. But he's just been so inconsistent this year, and his lows are really, really low.
Yeah, I mean, despite Patrick Mahomes' down year and everyone acting like he's terrible and broken, Josh Allen still did not have a better year than Patrick Mahomes. So why is Josh Allen so much better than Patrick Mahomes when he doesn't even have better statistics or a better resume in Mahomes' down year?
Makes no sense. Literally makes no sense. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't understand it. And yeah, they have to prove something in this game. The Bills have something to prove, and Josh Allen, if he wants to be mentioned like this ever again, he's going to have to win this game. If he doesn't, people got to shut up, because that's exactly what happened with Lamar Jackson. That's exactly what happened with Justin Herbert. They try to prop all these guys up against Mahomes. Mahomes beats him. You don't hear about him ever again.
Yeah.
And that talk ends once and for all this Sunday. And if Chiefs fans thought the disrespect was bad now, if the Bills win this game and Josh Allen beats Mahomes, you will never hear the end of it. And the Chiefs know that, and I think that's why they're going to rise to the occasion.
I do think they're going to rise to the occasion as well because, in the biggest of big-time games, and when the Chiefs are fully healthy, which they pretty much are fully healthy right now, no one can beat them. Like, if everyone's fully healthy and it's a big-time game, when had they never not shown up? Like, the Chiefs win big games. That's why they're at where they're at in their franchises.
The only one,
Go ahead.
The only one you can point to is the Super Bowl from last year, obviously, but kind of similar to like the Bengals game in the regular season. It took everything, and I mean everything, going wrong for the Chiefs in that game for that to happen.
When health was a big factor. Like right now, the Chiefs definitely probably aren't their healthiest that they've ever been, but at this point in the season to have pretty minimal injuries, and I think you got Rashad Fenton back. Willie Gay got cleared to play in this game. Clyde, I believe, is going to play in this game as well. So, like, you don't really have a ton of injuries, and a hungry Chiefs team is a team you don't want to face. And I think Buffalo's going to find that out tomorrow night, and I really do think the Chiefs can win this game. I'm not really going to predict a blowout because these two teams are fantastic, but I think that the Bills have significantly more to prove in this game than the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs have done this the past 2 years. Like, if they lose to the Bills, I mean, it would suck, but oh well. Like, Josh Allen is playing for a lot more right now than Patrick Mahomes is.
Absolutely. I 100% completely agree. The Bills have more to prove, and I would say the Chiefs have more to lose.
Yeah, I would say so, because if the Titans didn't lose to the Bengals, all right, the Chiefs have to go on the road in Tennessee in the AFC Championship game, which I still think the Chiefs could win on that in that situation, which clearly they can. But just that the fact that you have the chance to host another AFC Championship game, it's so big because, it's such a big advantage to be playing at home with the Arrowhead crowd involved, and I think that Buffalo just kind of ignores that. Like, remember last year's AFC Championship game, how raucous that crowd was? Like, I think that we're going to see the same thing. If not, no, there's going to be more fans in the stands this year, so it's going to be even louder.
Yeah, that's a factor that, I really hadn't actually considered either. That's a great point. I mean, the crowd is going to be even more of a factor than they were in that last year's AFC Championship game.
I think there was only like 17,000 in last year's AFC Championship game. There will be excess of 77,000 people in that stadium cheering on our Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be a hectic environment, and, I just think in the biggest of big games, Patrick Mahomes shows up, and, if there's ever an over my dead body kind of game that we see, Patrick Mahomes is going to show it tomorrow. Like, he's been listening to the noise. He's heard it all. Patrick Mahomes in the big games, specifically against teams that they have lost to before, they show up and they win. Like, that's just what we have seen, and I really think tomorrow's not going to be an exception.
Yeah, no team has ever beaten the Chiefs twice in one season.
Wow. Like, that's really big, especially if you're a Bills fan, because I think that the Bills fans and Bills Mafia and even some Bills players are kind of like, all right, we own this team. We beat them in week 5. But I think if you've ever played a sport or even ever played football, you would know that where you are to start the season and where you are to end the season, it's completely different. You are practically two different teams. I would say that, the Chiefs rattled off 8 straight wins. They were significantly hotter at one time period when the Bills kind of really struggled at one point. But right now these teams, it appears like they're playing their best football, and it's going to make for a great matchup. So, Josh, do you have anything else to conclude this video? I think that we kind of went over everything, and honestly, we just kind of wanted to get on here and give some final pregame thoughts and also talk about the Bengals win over the Titans.
Well, real quick, I do want to clarify what I said. No team has ever beaten the Chiefs twice at Arrowhead in 1 year. So just because I know some people point out, oh, the Chiefs have lost the same team twice. There's sometimes they got swept by the division. But, no, yeah, other than that, I have no other thoughts. But I am subtly confident in the Chiefs in this game. They're my pick to win this game. Yeah, am I nervous? Sure, it's a tough matchup. But I think the Chiefs, they got this.
I think every playoff game brings some nerves. Like, if you're not nervous in a playoff game, I mean, I don't really know what to tell you. Maybe you just don't think your team is that good, because this is going to be one of, if not the best playoff matchups this year. It could be an all-time great game. And I think that, historically, what we've seen under the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes era, they win these big games. Josh Allen, I mean, we haven't seen it yet. They don't win these games. And I think that, the Chiefs' defense is going to be a pretty big factor in this game. We kind of already talked about that, but hopefully we get a good game tomorrow. And if everything goes according to plan, the Kansas City Chiefs will host yet another AFC Championship game at Arrowhead Stadium, and that'd be a great thing to see. So, you can go find me on Instagram and Twitter. My Instagram is KC_Sports Report. The Twitter is at KC Sports Report. Go check out the website. That's kcsportsreport.com. You can go follow Josh on Twitter. That is ShowMeFB. And his personal is JoshFan43. And also go check out his YouTube channel, JoshFan, and ShowMeFootball.com. And with that being said, guys, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.